I want to start with a moment, not the beginning of the story, the middle of it. A specific evening in November 4 years ago, at a dinner table in a house in Charleston, South Carolina, that had been in my husband's family for 3 generations, 14 people at the table. My husband's parents, his 2 brothers and their wives, his grandmother, who was 91 years old and had been the quiet center of the family for as long as anyone could remember, extended relatives, and me. We had been married for 6 years at that point. 6 years of Sunday dinners where I sat at that table and felt the specific, precise temperature of a room that had decided what it thought of me before I had opened my mouth on the first evening and had not significantly revised that decision. Since that, 6 years of being the woman Marcus had chosen, against the family's expectations, against the careful, specific hopes they had held for him since he was old. Enough to have things hoped for him, 6 years of watching my husband love me in a room that watched him do it, with the specific expression of people who have decided the loving is a mistake, and are waiting with the patience of people who believe time will prove them. Right, they were not right and the night. They finally understood that the specific evening when something shifted in that dining room in a way that could not be shifted back is the night. This story is really about, but I cannot tell you, about that night without telling you about the 10 years that built toward it. And I cannot tell you about those 10 years without starting at the very beginning. If you are new here, please subscribe right now and drop your country and local time in the comments. I read every single one. Now, let me take you all the way back. My name is Adaeze Morgan. I am 39 years old. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, and came to the United States at 13 when my father, an engineer, was offered a position at a firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I grew up in Charlotte, went to university at Duke, and built a career in financial consulting that took me to several cities before landing me at 20 in Charleston. I am telling you this not as preamble, but as context, because the specifics of where I came from matter to what I am about to tell you. They are not the whole of the story, but they are the part that the Fairchild family used, in ways large and small across 10 years of my marriage, as the frame through which they chose to see me, not always explicitly. In fact, almost never explicitly. The Fairchilds were not, to their credit, people who said the direct thing. They were people who communicated in the specific, language of omission and implication, and a very careful management of what was included and what was left out. Became fluent in that language. Over 10 years, I am ahead of myself, Marcus. Fairchild and I met at a work conference in Atlanta. He was 30, I was 28. He worked in commercial real estate, a field his family had been in for 2 generations. And he had been sent to represent the firm at a panel discussion I was also attending for reasons related to a consulting project I was working on. We sat at the same table at a lunch break. He asked me a question about something the morning speaker had said. He answered it directly, which surprised him enough that he asked a follow-up question, and then another. And by the end of the lunch, We had finished each other's sentences 3 times without planning to. That does not happen often. When it happens, you notice. We dated for 2 years. Long distance for the first 8 months. He was in Charleston. I was in Charlotte, finishing the consulting project, and then I relocated because the project ended, and Charleston had Marcus, and Marcus was, by that point, the most significant reason I had to go anywhere. I met his family in month 4 of our relationship. His parents, Robert and Eleanor. His older brother, Patrick, and Patrick's wife, Susan. His younger brother, Daniel, who was not yet married at that point. And his grandmother, whom everyone called Gram, who was 87 at the time and who assessed me in about 30 seconds with eyes that had been assessing people for 8 decades, and then nodded very slightly, which Marcus told me later was a significant positive indicator. Gram saw me from the first evening, everyone else was deciding what to do with me. Robert Fairchild was a man who had built the family's real estate business from his father's modest foundation into something considerably larger over 40 years of work. He was proud of what he had built in the way of someone who has sacrificed for a thing and expects the thing to reflect the sacrifice. He was proud of his sons in the specific way of someone who expects them to extend the legacy rather than complicate it. I was a complication, not because of my work. I was a financial consultant with a Duke degree and a strong professional record, and Robert could not find fault with that accounting. Not because of my manner. I was direct, but not aggressive, articulate, capable of holding my own in any conversation the Fairchilds initiated. It was the other thing. The thing that was never said directly. The thing that lived in the slight pause before Robert introduced me to business associates. In the way Eleanor sometimes forgot to include my name when she told people about her sons' lives. In the quality of the family photographs that appear on the Fairchild family's walls over the years, the gradual addition of Susan, who had joined the family 2 years before me, into the visible record of the family's life while I remained somehow consistently peripheral to that record. I want to be precise about this. I am precise by training and by nature. What I am describing was never dramatic. It was never confrontational. It was the specific, patient exclusion of someone who has decided that a thing does not fit and has chosen to act on that decision in ways that are technically deniable. That is what 10 years of it looks like from the inside. Marcus and I got married in year 2 of our relationship. A ceremony in Charleston that I had spent 4 months helping to plan, and that the Fairchild family had spent 4 months subtly attempting to reshape into something that looked more like what they had imagined. The guest list was a negotiation. The venue was a negotiation. The reception dinner was a negotiation. Each negotiation was managed by Eleanor with the specific warmth of someone who frames every preference as a gift she is offering rather than a demand she is making. Marcus held the line on the things that mattered. He did this quietly, consistently, without drama, and with the specific clarity of a man who knows what he has chosen, and is not confused about it, even when the people around him are suggesting he should be. He is the reason I stayed through 10 years. of what I am telling you about not stayed in the marriage. The marriage was never the question. I stayed at Sunday dinners. I stayed at Christmas gatherings and Thanksgiving. Tables and birthday celebrations and the specific circuit of Fairchild family occasions that repeated themselves with the regularity of tides. I stayed because Marcus was there. And because I had decided after the second year that I was not going to give the Fairchild family the satisfaction of my absence, that I was going to show up clearly and fully and without apology as many times as it took for them to either accept me or exhaust themselves trying not to. This decision cost me something. I want to be honest about that. It cost me energy and time and the specific emotional labor of performing composure in rooms that were not extending it to me. There were evenings I drove home from Sunday dinner in tears that I did not let Marcus see because he already carried enough of what his family's behavior cost him, and I was not going to add my tears to his load. I cried in the car. I composed myself before I walked in the door. I was fine. This went on for years. The birth of our first child changed things. Not all things. Not the fundamental thing. But some things. Our daughter Amara was born in year 3 of our marriage. She had Marcus's jaw and my eyes, and the specific combination of calm and alertness that made the nurses in the maternity ward stop at her bassinet more than the other babies. Not because she cried less, but because when she looked at you as though she was deciding something. She has been like that ever since. The Fairchild family loved Amara. This I will say, clearly and without qualification. Robert and Eleanor loved that child with a warmth and a completeness that had nothing managed or performed about it. Whatever their relationship with me, whatever their relationship with the choice Marcus had made, Amara was their granddaughter, and they loved her without reservation. Was complicated to navigate because a child who is loved by people who have not fully extended that love to her mother creates a specific territory that requires careful management. He managed it carefully. He never said anything to Amara about her grandparents' relationship with me. I never allowed my own experience to color her experience of them. He wanted her to have what was available to her and what was available to her from Robert and Eleanor was genuine love for the child, even if the love for the child's mother was conditional, in ways I had never been able to fully unlock when Amara was 4. She started asking me why Grandma Eleanor always called Daddy first. Children notice everything. I told her that some people had different ways of showing love and that Grandma loved all of us and that it was okay. Amara looked at me with her deciding eyes. She said, "But she doesn't call you first, Mama," I said. "I know, baby." "But she loves us both." Amara considered this for a moment, then she said, "I'm going to call you first, always." She is 9 now. She calls me first. Every time, some things you cannot teach. Some things children simply know. The evening I am going to tell you about now happened in year 6 of our marriage. In November. At the Fairchild family home in Charleston, it was Robert's 65th birthday dinner. The whole family. 14 people at that three-generation table. I had been at that table many times. I knew its rhythms. I knew who held the floor and for how long and whose opinion redirected the conversation and whose was received with the specific polite dismissal of people who have already decided what they think dinner progressed the way Fairchild dinners progressed. Warm in its surface, complicated underneath, the specific performance of a close family that is somewhat less close than it performs. Robert was in good spirits. It was his birthday, and he was 65, and the business was doing well, and his grandchildren, 3 of them now, Amara and Patrick's 2 boys, were at the table, being the specific beautiful chaos that young children are at dinner tables. Then Graham spoke. She did not speak often at these dinners. At 91, she had earned the specific authority of someone who has said enough in 9 decades to understand the value of choosing carefully. When she spoke, people listened. She said, "I want to say something." The table went quiet. Not completely. The children continued their quiet negotiations, but the adults quieted. "I want to say something about this family," she said. "About what I have watched over the past 6 years. I did not know what was coming. I want to be honest about that." I had no foreknowledge of what Graham was about to say, and I would not have predicted it if I had been asked to. "I have been in this family for 91 years, she said. "I have watched it from the inside for longer than any of you have been alive. I know what this family is at its best, and I know what it is at its worst, and I want to say something about which of those things I have been watching." She looked at Robert. "Robert, you built something. Your father gave you a foundation and you built something real on it, and you should be proud of that. You have been proud of it, and you have every right to be." Robert said, "Thank you." "But," Graham said, "you have also spent 6 years communicating to your son's wife that she is peripheral to what you have built. Not in ways you would be comfortable defending directly, but in ways that everyone at this table has seen. Including your son, including your granddaughter, who is 4 years old and has already noticed." The table was very still. "I am 91 years old," Graham said. "I do not have enough evenings left at this table to watch this family be smaller than it should be. And I am telling you, Robert, and you, Eleanor, that the woman Marcus chose is not peripheral to this family. She is the center of your son's life. She is the mother of your granddaughter. And she has sat at this table for 6 years with more grace than you have earned from her." She picked up her wine glass. "I would like you to fix that," she said simply, "before I run out of evenings to watch you do it." She drank. The table was completely silent. I did not speak. "I want to be precise about this because I think it matters." I did not say anything in the silence after Graham spoke. I did not look at Robert or Eleanor. I looked at my wine glass, and I let the silence be what it was. Marcus's hand found mine under the table. He held it. He did not look at his parents. He looked at Graham with an expression that I have thought about many times since. It was the expression of someone who has been waiting for something for 6 years and has just watched it arrive from the direction they had least expected. Robert spoke first. He did not speak immediately. He sat with Graham's words for long enough that the silence became its own kind of statement. When he finally spoke, his voice was different from any version of his voice I had heard before. He said, Mother. You are right. The table exhaled. He looked at me. It was the most direct he had ever looked at me in 6 years. Not the evaluation I had grown accustomed to. Something else. The specific look of a man making a decision he should have made earlier, he said, Adaeze. I owe you an apology. A real one. Not an explanation of my reasoning or a defense of my intentions. Just an apology. I waited. I made a judgment about you before I knew you. And then I spent 6 years confirming that judgment instead of revisiting it. That was wrong. It was wrong of me, and it was wrong for this family, and I am sorry. I held what he had said. Eleanor reached across the table. She touched my hand. She did not say anything. The touch said what she had not found the words for. He accepted it for what it was. I looked at Robert. Thank you, I said. For saying it directly. I should have said it years ago, he said. Yes, I said. But you are saying it now. He nodded. We had dinner. The rest of the evening was different from every other evening I had spent at that table. Not dramatically. Not transformed. But shifted in the specific way of something that has been adjusted to become more true. People ask me questions. Real questions about my work, about my opinions, about the things that matter to me. The conversations that had flowed around me for 6 years began tentatively to flow through me. I answered. I asked questions in return. I was present in a way I had not been permitted. To be present before, Graham watched all of it. From her end of the table with the specific satisfaction of someone who has spent 91 years understanding exactly when to say the thing that needs to be said. Before she left that evening, she held my hands for a moment in the hallway, she said. You have been patient. I have, I said. Good things require patience, she said. But they also require someone to say the thing eventually. I was tired of waiting for someone younger to do it. I laughed. Thank you, Graham, I said. She squeezed my hands. Thank Marcus, she said. It shows well. The years since that November dinner have been different, not perfect. I want to be clear about that because I have come to distrust the stories that resolve too cleanly. Real things do not resolve cleanly. They resolve gradually, imperfectly, with occasional backsliding, and with the specific patience of people who have decided that the work of building something real is worth the time it takes. Robert calls me now. Not as often as he calls Marcus, but with genuine regularity. The calls are not yet easy in the way that years of comfort make calls easy, but they are honest. He asks about my work and listens to the answer. He has twice now asked my professional opinion on a financial question related to the business and has taken the advice I gave him seriously. These are small things. I am aware they are small. But small things, done consistently over time, become the substance of a relationship. I am building that substance with Robert, one small thing at a time. Eleanor has changed in ways that are harder to describe because they are more internal. She is warmer with me in the specific way of someone who has given herself permission to be warmer. She calls on my birthday now. She asks about Amara, not as Marcus's daughter, but as my daughter. She says my name at the beginning of sentences. These are also small things, and they matter. Graham died 14 months after that November dinner. 92 years old. She passed in her sleep at the family home she had lived in for 60 years. I was at her funeral. He sat with Marcus and Amara in the second row. In the first row, with Robert and Eleanor and Patrick and Daniel and their families, the seating had not been assigned. No one had organized it. We had simply arrived and sat where we sat. Amara sat between Marcus and me. At one point during the service, she reached over and took both of our hands simultaneously, one of each, and held them. Robert was in the row in front of us. At some point during the service, he turned around. He looked at the three of us, at Marcus and Amara and me. Connected by our daughters' small hands between us, he turned back to face the front, but I saw what was on his face when he turned. It was recognition, the specific recognition of someone who is seeing something clearly for the first time and understanding that it has been there all along. I chose not to say anything. Some things are better witnessed than commented on. It has been 4 years since that November dinner. Marcus and I have been married for 10 years. Amara is 9. We had a second child, a son named Kofi, who is 3 and who has Robert's jaw and my eyes and a specific combination of energy and intelligence that I hope will serve him well. Fairchild family is different than it was, not transformed. Not the close, warm, uncomplicated family that never existed for me in the first place. But genuinely different in the ways that matter. I think about Graham sometimes. About a 91-year-old woman who decided she had run out of evenings to watch her family be smaller than it should be. I think about what it takes to say the true thing in a room where the true thing has not been permitted to exist. The specific courage of it. Not the courage of someone who has nothing to lose. Graham had everything to lose, including the harmony of the family she loved. But the courage of someone who has decided that harmony built on something false is not worth preserving at the cost of what is real. She said the true thing, and the room changed around it. Not immediately. Not without discomfort. But genuinely, I want to say something about patience. I have been patient for 10 years. Not passively patient. I have been active and present and fully myself throughout those 10 years. But patient, in the sense of willing to keep showing up in a room that had not yet decided to fully receive me. That patience was not comfortable. It was not something I would recommend to everyone in every situation. There are rooms that do not change, and staying in them too long costs more than leaving would have. I was not always certain that the Fairchild dining room was the kind of room that would change, but it did, and the patience, the specific, costly, consistent patience of continuing to show up, was part of what made it possible, not all of it. Graham was more of it. The undeniable fact of Amara and then Kofi was more of it. The 10 years of Marcus loving me in that room with complete consistency was most of it. But the patience was part, and I do not regret it. I think about the car rides home in the early years. The tears I did not show Marcus. The composure I reassembled before walking through our front door. I think about what those years were building in me. Not just endurance, though there was endurance, but the specific, deep-rooted knowledge of who I was that comes from spending years in rooms that try to tell you otherwise and deciding consistently that you know better. I know who I am. I knew it through 10 years of Sunday dinners, and I know it now. That is not nothing. That is, in fact, everything. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever sat in a room that had decided what it thought of you before you had the chance to show them? Have you ever shown up consistently and fully in a space that was not yet ready to receive you and kept showing up anyway? And have you ever watched a room change? Slowly, imperfectly, and genuinely. Drop the word "room" in the comments if this story reached something real in you, and if you are new here, subscribe. Every single day, I share a new story about family, about truth, and about the people who kept showing up until the room finally changed around them. I will see you in the next one. Kayla's Dark Truth.